If your income stopped today, you wouldn't have a backup. And that's the real problem. Because right now, everything in your life depends on one source. And you're calling that security. But it's not. That's exposure. And it's one of the riskiest financial positions you can be in. And the moment that source disappears, your entire system collapses. Your bills, your plans, your peace of mind, all tied to one stream. And here's what most people get wrong. And this is exactly why they never make their first dollar. They think the solution is to earn more hours, more effort, more stress. But that doesn't fix the problem, it deepens it. Because your real problem is not how much you earn, it's how your income is structured. Here's where it gets dangerous. Because the longer you depend on one stream, the harder it becomes to build another. Time gets tighter, energy gets lower, and you stay stuck in the same cycle. Work to get paid, to spend, to repeat. But what happens next is where most people either move forward or stay stuck for years, is what changes everything. Because there's a way to build your first income stream even if you're starting from zero. No extra money, no special connections, and no complicated systems. And most people completely overlook it. Not because it's hard, but because they're thinking about income the wrong way. So stay with me until the very end of this video, because in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to build your first income stream, step by step. What most people do wrong that keeps them stuck, and the simple shift that allows you to start building income, even if you feel like you're starting behind. If you miss this, you'll keep watching videos, but never actually build anything. And that's the difference between people who stay inspired and people who create real financial freedom. Let's get into it. If you're still watching this right now, it means something inside you is paying attention. Not just casually watching, but noticing. Because most people would have clicked off already. They would have told themselves, I already know this. I'll watch later. Or, this doesn't apply to me. But you didn't. And that tells me something important about you. You're not just trying to make money. You're trying to understand it. You're trying to figure out why. Even when you're doing what you're supposed to do, it still doesn't feel like progress. Because let's be honest for a moment. You're putting in effort. You're working. You're earning. You're trying to be responsible. But somehow, it still feels like you're running without actually getting ahead. And that creates a quiet frustration. Not loud, not dramatic, but constant. It shows up when you check your account and realize nothing really changed. It shows up when you think about your future and it feels uncertain. It shows up when you see other people moving forward and you can't fully explain why you're not. And here's what most people do in that moment. They push it aside. They distract themselves. They tell themselves, I just need more time. I just need to earn more. I'll figure it out eventually. But that thought is where the problem starts to deepen. Because time doesn't fix a broken system. It makes it permanent. It only repeats it. And this is where it becomes dangerous. Because the longer you stay in that pattern, the more normal it feels. You wake up, you work, you get paid, you spend, you repeat. And over time, that cycle stops feeling temporary and starts feeling permanent. You stop questioning it. You stop challenging it. You stop asking, is this actually working for me? Because it feels stable. It feels predictable. It feels safe. But what most people don't realize is that stability built on one source is not stability. It's dependency. And dependency always comes with risk. Because everything you rely on comes from one place, one income, one stream, one system. And that means one disruption can affect everything. Your bills, your lifestyle, your plans, your ability to make decisions freely. And here's the part that makes it even more subtle. You don't notice it when things are working. You only feel it when something goes wrong. But by then, you don't have time to prepare. You're forced to react. And reaction is never where control lives. Control comes from building something before you need it, but most people don't do that because they're focused on maintaining what they have, not expanding beyond it. And this is where the real shift begins, because the issue is not effort, it's not intelligence, it's not even opportunity, it's structure. The way your income is set up is limiting how your life can grow. And as long as everything you earn comes from one place, your progress will always have a ceiling, because your time is limited, your energy is limited, and your growth becomes tied to how much more you can give. And eventually, you reach a point where giving more is no longer sustainable. But here's what makes this even more important. This doesn't feel like a problem. It feels like responsibility. It feels like you're doing the right thing. You're being careful. You're being disciplined. You're avoiding risk. And those things sound like strengths. But in this context, they can quietly become limitations. Because while you're protecting what you have, you're not building anything new. And while you're staying safe, you're staying in the same place. And this is the moment most people never reach. The moment where they realize, it's not that I'm not working hard enough. It's that I'm working inside a system that can't grow. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Because now, you're no longer asking, how can I earn more? You're starting to ask, why is everything I earn coming from one place? And what happens next is where everything begins to shift.
At this point, something should feel different, because now you're no longer just watching, you're starting to question, and that's where change begins. But here's what most people get wrong at this stage. They think the solution is complicated. They think, I need a big idea. I need capital. I need everything figured out before I start. And that belief alone keeps them stuck for years, because they're waiting for clarity instead of building it. But what I'm about to show you next is where everything simplifies. Because building your first income stream is not about doing more. It's about understanding how income actually works. Not how people talk about it, not how it looks online, but how it functions in reality. And once you see this, you stop guessing and start building with direction. Because income follows a structure every single time. It doesn't matter the industry, the method, or the level you're at. The structure stays the same. Now, this is where most people fail, because they try to make money without understanding this structure. Value to attention to action to income. That's it. No shortcuts, no hidden formula, just a process. And when you break it down, it becomes clear. First, something of value must exist. Something useful, something that solves a problem or improves a situation. Then, that value needs attention. People need to see it, understand it, recognize that it matters. Then, they take action. They trust it enough to engage with it, to use it, or to pay for it. And that's when income happens, not before. And this is exactly where most people fail, because they try to start at the end. They want income without building value. They want results without creating anything useful. And because of that, they try things that don't last. They jump from idea to idea, looking for something that works quickly instead of something that works consistently. But once you understand this structure, everything changes. Because now you're not chasing money anymore. You're building something that can produce it. And this is where you begin. Not with complexity, but with clarity. The first step is to start with what you already know, not what you wish you knew, not what sounds impressive, what you already understand. Because right now, you already have something valuable. You've learned things. You've experienced things. You've solved problems in your own life that someone else is still trying to figure out. And that is enough to start. But here's where most people hesitate. They underestimate themselves. They think, I'm not an expert. I don't know enough. I need more before I begin. But what happens next is where everything shifts. Because you don't need to be an expert, You need to be useful. You need to be one step ahead of someone else. That's it. And once you accept that, you stop waiting and you start moving. The second step is to turn what you know into value. Not something perfect, something practical, something someone can use. It could be as simple as explaining a concept clearly, sharing a method that works, offering a small service, or solving a specific problem. Because value is not about complexity, it's about usefulness. And when something is useful, people pay attention. And when people pay attention, opportunity begins. But here's what most people miss. They focus too much on perfection and not enough on delivery. They delay, they overthink, they refine endlessly, but they never put anything out. And without output, nothing grows. The third step is visibility. Because no matter how valuable something is, if no one sees it, it doesn't exist in the marketplace. So you have to show it consistently. Not once, not occasionally, but repeatedly. And this is where most people fall off, because this part requires patience. It requires showing up even when nothing is happening yet. It requires continuing without immediate feedback, and that's uncomfortable. So they stop. They assume it's not working. They move on to something else, and they reset the process over and over again, never staying long enough to see results. And this is the moment where everything changes, because what I'm about to say next is the exact reason most people never make their first dollar. They quit right before momentum begins. They expect something that takes time to happen instantly. But income doesn't reward speed. It rewards consistency. It rewards staying in the process long enough for it to compound. Because at first, nothing feels like it's happening. Then something small shifts. A response, a result, a signal. And that signal is where growth begins. But only if you're still there to see it. And that's why this step matters more than anything else. Not because it's difficult,
but because it requires you to stay when nothing is guaranteed yet. And that is where real builders separate themselves.
Now, the strategy is no longer the problem. You've seen the structure, you understand the steps, you know where to begin. But here's what most people get wrong. This is where they still don't move. Not because they don't know what to do, but because of how they think about what they're doing. Because the real shift is not external, it's internal. And this is where it becomes dangerous. Because you can have the right plan and still stay stuck if your mindset doesn't align with the process. Most people approach this the wrong way. They ask, how fast can I make money? How soon will I see results? What if it doesn't work? And those questions keep them focused on the outcome instead of the build. But what happens next is what changes everything. Because the people who actually build income don't think like that. They ask a different question. What can I build that continues to grow even when I'm not watching it? That question alone shifts your entire direction, because now you're not chasing money anymore. You're creating something that produces it. And this is where your identity starts to change. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to earn and start seeing yourself as someone building. And builders move differently. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't need full certainty. They don't expect immediate results. They focus on progress. They focus on consistency. They focus on staying in motion long enough for something to develop. And here's the part most people never experience because they quit too early. Momentum. Real momentum. The kind that doesn't feel exciting at first, but becomes powerful over time. It starts small, almost invisible. A small result, a small improvement, a small sign that something is working. And if you stay with it, that small signal grows. It builds, it compounds, and suddenly you're no longer starting from zero. You're building on something. And this is the shift most people never reach because they're looking for fast wins instead of long-term direction. But once you cross that point, everything changes. Because now you have proof. Not theory, not ideas.
proof. And proof creates confidence. And confidence creates consistency. And consistency creates results. And this is where it all begins to come together. Because now, you're not guessing anymore. You're building something real. Now picture this clearly, not in a dramatic way, but in a realistic one. A few months from now, your situation hasn't exploded overnight, but something has changed. You still have your main income, but now there's something else, a second stream. It's not huge, but it's consistent. And more importantly, it's yours. You built it. You control it. And that changes how you think. Because now, you're no longer fully dependent. You have something that exists outside of your time, outside of your job, outside of the system you were relying on before. And what happens next is where it compounds. Because once you build one stream, you understand the process. You see how it works. You gain clarity. And now, building another one becomes easier. And another. And another. Until one day, you're no longer asking, how do I survive on one income? You're asking, how do I expand what I've already built? And that's a completely different position. That's control. That's stability. That's leverage. And eventually, that's freedom. Not the kind that happens overnight, but the kind that builds quietly and becomes undeniable over time. And it all started from one decision: to stop waiting and start building.
Now pause for a second and be honest with yourself. What's really been holding you back? Is it fear, overthinking, or starting and stopping? Because here's the truth. Most people don't fail because they can't build income. They fail because they never stay consistent long enough to see it work. And that's exactly where things break down. So before you move on, don't overthink it. Type, "I'm building my first income stream" in the comments right now. Because the moment you commit, you stop watching and start building. Now listen carefully, because this is where most people get it wrong. If you try to build income without understanding why people fail, you'll repeat the same mistakes over and over again. And that's why your next step matters. Watch this next video, Why Most People Fail at Side Hustles. Because in that video, I break down the exact mistakes that stop people from making their first dollar, even when they're doing everything they think is right. Watch this next video, because if you don't understand why most people fail, you'll start, but you won't last. And consistency is what builds income. If you're serious about changing your financial direction, don't watch one video, build this with me. Subscribe to Financial Awaken with Aaron and turn on the notification bell, because on this channel, you're not just learning about money, you're learning how to build it, step by step. No shortcuts, no hype, just real strategy and real growth.